evening and welcome to Truth and Justice TV. My name's Jennifer Obaseki and today we have just an amazing guest. This day we have the amazing Miss Carol Stewart. And before you sort of sit down and say, who's Carol Stewart? And those of you who know who she is are saying, yay! Well, I'm going to let her introduce herself. So, good evening, Carol, and welcome to Truth and Justice TV.
Good evening, Jennifer, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
So, for those of my lovely guests who don't know who you are, and before I start reeling off how much praise I have for you, please do tell them exactly who you are.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm Carol Stewart. I'm the founder of The Bounding Solutions and author of Quietly Visible, and the host of the Quietly Visible podcast. I'm an executive career and leadership coach, and I specialise in coaching introverted women who are senior leaders. And I coach women to lead with confidence, influence and impact. And I also work with organisations to develop their talent and provide a range of workshops, webinars and talks on career development, personal development and leadership development.
Thank you. Now, I would like to say that the first time I saw you and heard you speak, and I've heard you speak on a number of occasions, I was actually blown away in awe. Okay?
Oh, thank you.
I think that your skill set is so unique, and at the same time, the manner of the level of impact that you have, I don't think you appreciate it. So I just think you're awesome.
Oh,
okay?
thank you.
Wrapped up in one. But this book, and I kind of refer this book to women who I know to be excellent leaders, but not necessarily out there selling their skills from the top of the mountain. But this book, Quietly Visible, I can recommend it strongly. I've referred it to a range of professionals who I've come across, as I've said, who are excellent at what they do, don't necessarily know how to package themselves, or let me say, sell themselves. Today's world is quietly kind of one where you are seen to be on social media, doing your Facebook, doing your LinkedIn, doing your Twitter. But if you're somebody who's not one to go to conferences and want to have all the speaking slots and be up there with all, what would I say, lights and bonnets on yourself, then this book helps you in putting your profile forward and best presenting yourself. Can I ask, what led you to writing it?
Okay, so I'm introverted myself, and prior to starting my coaching business, I was a leader, and I was aware of the challenges that I had as a introverted leader, because the corporate environment is very much geared towards extroversion, and it's often the case of he or she who shouts the loudest is the one that gets heard, that gets the recognition, that gets the reward and gets ahead. And the quieter ones often get overlooked. So once I started my coaching business, and it's actually 10 years today since I left employment.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And to start my business, I did a master's in coaching psychology at the same time as starting my business. And once I'd started working as a coach, I started to reflect on the clients that I'd worked with, and I identified that many of them are introverted. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because I'm introverted myself. And then I started writing articles on LinkedIn about the challenges that introverted women face as leaders, what introverted leaders have, the challenges that they have. And I got inundated with messages, comments, emails, people sharing their stories with me. Some of them are quite horrific.
Oh, the bad experiences.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like one woman told me how she'd been for an interview and was told that they liked her, but they wanted her to justify why they should give her the job because she was introverted.
Wow.
And, you know.
So you're skilled, you're qualified, but we think you're too quiet, so why should we employ you? No. Wow.
Yeah. And so then that's why I decided to make it my area of specialism, and hence the book.
Wow. So some of the things that you, as you say, received, some are very horrific, but what are some of the rewarding or positive tales that you've had from your own clients? What have been some of the big thank you stories?
Well, seeing the transformation that they have. I mean, one client, she invited me to her work conference event that her workplace had, and her sister was there, and her sister came up to me afterwards and she said, "Thank you for giving me my sister back."
Wow.
Because this woman, her confidence had been knocked by experiences of maybe bullying, not quite bullying at work, but where she was kept down.
Feeling undermined,
Yes.
unappreciated,
Yes.
take all your ideas but not give you any credit. Is
Yes.
that you?
Yes.
So that happens so many times to women. And if there is somebody out there who's watching today that thinks, do you know what, that is me. I'm always submitting my submission to my manager, or I'm sending out these memos, they're taking all the ideas and no credit to me. And not even that, I'm there, but they don't acknowledge me, even though they're taking up my ideas. What would you say to that woman, or give 3 just tips?
So it's about owning your work, owning yourself. Oftentimes what happens is that the women don't speak up and let their voices be heard. And often I get clients who they'll talk about when they're in meetings, and meetings can be very challenging for people who are introverted, because the way that meetings are conducted, they don't allow for the thinking and reflective preference that introverts have. And so there's a lot of being put on the spot, and so when you're put on the spot, you may not always
Perform.
yes to the best.
I get that.
Yeah. And then the more you worry about it, the worse it becomes, because then you start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get put on the spot and I don't know what to say. And so it's about speaking up, asserting yourself, being assertive, and holding your ground.
So speak up, own your work, and actually own your space and hold your ground. You know, if you're put on the spot, you might want to say, just give me a moment. If you're put on the spot, you might want to say, I can get back to you, and I actually have that prepared in written form. Again, if you say, you didn't give me notice of that, but it is ready, I'll send it to you before the end of the day. Own your time, own your work as well. If it's yours and you've put it forward, or you're asked to prepare it, put your initials on the bottom of it. Outline how long it took you, if there's a way that that's even calculated. And if it brings in revenue, also calculate that. When you're doing your appraisals, that's one thing that I say to especially introverted women, when I'm sort of appraising them, I sit down and say, haven't you realised how much you've brought into the firm? I've appreciated your work on this. Why is that not on your appraisal? And ask for what you need, or ask for what you want. What introverted people sometimes don't ask that.
No, they don't. And oftentimes it's because introverts don't typically want to be in the spotlight. And a lot of the activities that we see now where people are getting ahead, that is about being in the spotlight, it's about promoting yourself. But introverts typically don't want to be in the spotlight. So it's not that they're not good at what they do, it's just that they don't hog the limelight. And many women experience what is called, or what has been termed, tiara syndrome. And that's thinking that your work will speak for itself. But the way that the world of work has changed, that's not always the case. And the people that need to know about your successes and achievements are not necessarily going to know about them unless you tell them.
So management, directors here, and you that might be an executive or somebody that's working here, unless you actually take ownership of your work, they ain't going to know that it's you that's helped the turnaround. They're not going to know it's your ideas that changed the policy in a positive way. So quite rightly, you need to own your work and not have the tiara syndrome. But we're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, we're going to discuss how you get yourself seen in this modern day of working. We've already discussed how difficult it is when you're in the workplace. How is it now that you're going to make yourself seen when you're working from home? See you after this short break. Welcome back, and today we have my special guest, Miss Carol Stewart, in the room. And you know what, one of the things that she did mention when she was introducing herself was how she became one of the noticed people on LinkedIn in 2020. So, just a brief touch on that. How did that all come about?
Right, okay, so for the past 4 years running, I've been named as a LinkedIn top voice in the UK, and it's for the articles that I write and publish on LinkedIn. So I do a lot of writing and articles. So once I started my business, writing was a way of marketing myself and my business and raising my profile and my visibility.
Wow.
And that's how I do it consistently. And I get a lot of attention for it as well.
Can I ask you, before we delve into assisting women getting noticed if they're working from home, what are the top 3 tips you would give to somebody who is a budding author, but they're not yet published, or not really used to putting out their articles on LinkedIn or other formats?
I'd say just get on and do it. We've all got a story to tell. You will have got experience, you will have got skills, you will have got talent. So write about the things that you are knowledgeable about, and put it out there. You can always get somebody to read it over before you publish it. But just when I look at how my first blogs were when I started 10 years ago to what they are now, I can see the difference, and I do cringe a bit.
Listen, if you go on my LinkedIn and start doing spell check for me, don't let me tell you off, okay? I do most of my little snippets, usually when I'm fired up about something, which is not always good because I don't go back and read it properly, or at other times I do it when I've woken up and a thought comes in my head. So there are sometimes loads of typos, okay? Plus I'm dyslexic, so don't judge, but at least I'm trying. So as you just heard, we've all got a story to tell. Don't go sit down and binge watch your favourite series. Just take that time and think, today I'm going to put pen to paper or get on my keyboard and have a go. Put out your article or snippet, and then again, if it's something that you're knowledgeable about, you're skilled with, get a friend or somebody you trust to read it over and give you some objective commentary on it. But don't just keep that story or that knowledge within you. Share it. Okay? So back to what we were discussing, which is now the new normal, working from home. It's difficult already for women to be noticed in the office, and there can be challenges, but there are even more challenges in this new environment now, working from home. So what would you say to the woman or man that's out there doing their bit, trying to make sure that they're juggling the family life or other difficulties that we've seen in the pandemic and still performing for their employer?
I would say now that we are working from home, and even with people going back to the office, there's going to be more of the hybrid more people are going to be working remotely. So it's more than important than ever to be raising your visibility and being seen and heard by the people that you want to know about you. And there's many ways in which you can do this virtually. You can, as we've talked about, showcase your thought leadership through articles, commentaries, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's writing for your company's intranet site or your industry publications, just getting your name out there and showcasing your knowledge and expertise. Public speaking is another way in which you can do that. So speaking on webinars or conferences, a lot of them are done virtually these days, so doing that as well. And when you're in meetings, making sure that your voice gets heard in the virtual meetings. I know it may be more challenging when you're in a virtual meeting to speak up, because in a live face-to-face meeting, you can pick up on those non-verbal cues where you can see that somebody is about to stop speaking or coming to the end of what they're saying, and then you can quickly jump in. So when you're doing it remotely on a virtual meeting, you're going to really have to listen. And if you are introverted, introverts are well known for their listening skills. So you can listen and listen to when people are pausing or coming to the end of what they're wanting to say, and then step in with what it is that you want to say. Make use of the chat facility to get the attention of people that you want to be seen by. Send them a direct message on the chat as well.
Brilliant. So one of the other things that we sit down and say to ourselves is, okay, if you're managing somebody who you know to be introverted, how do we give them the encouragement, and what tips do you have out there for somebody who is a line manager or supervisor for somebody who's introverted?
So understand that their introversion, understand what introversion is and what it isn't. So because they're introverted, it doesn't mean that they necessarily lack confidence. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are shy. They could be, but it doesn't automatically mean that they're shy and they lack confidence, which a lot of people mistakenly think. So recognise that. So in meetings, if you're chairing the meetings, give them that thinking and reflective time. So as a chair, you should be letting everybody in the room contribute, everyone who's at the table contribute to the meeting. So make sure that they are given opportunities to speak up as well. And it might be the case that knowing that they like to think and reflect before speaking, come back to them later if you think that they may have needed some more thinking time as well. But it's understanding their strengths and their preferences.
Thank you. Now we're going to take another little break now, and when we come back, we're going to talk CVs. Nowadays, people look so fast through documents and don't have time to read long splurge. So we'll have a little break and then come back shortly. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. So, Carol, CVs. During this lockdown, I hope that you've used the time to look at how you've prepared your CV and bio. Are there any tips out there? I've been seeing new trends. A lot of the new graduates kind of have quite, I won't say bougie, but I'll use the word you can see that they've put a lot of effort into the way they've laid it out, etc. But what tips do you have for CVs in style and content?
Okay, so with a CV is your chance to sell yourself. If you think recruiters are looking through hundreds, even sometimes thousands of CVs, you need to be able to stand out in your CV. So start with a very profound opening statement when it comes to the career profile, and don't use some of the words which are meaningless, like highly effective this, or use active verbs which describe your skills and your talents. And when you're listing your work experience, make it achievement based. A lot of people just make their CVs
not role based, but achievement based.
Make it task based, so they just list all the tasks that they do, but make it achievements. So put what your role is, but focus on your achievements and put some of your key achievements on there as well. And if you're able to quantify your achievements, then do that as well. So if you saved your organisation X amount of money, put that on. Or if you say reduced headcount or whatever it is, if you can quantify that, put that in with your achievements as well. Depending on how long you've been in your career, if you're someone who's in you're just starting out in your career, then you will have your education first. But if you've been sort of long
in the tooth, c'est moi, 20 years.
Then you don't need to put your education at the top. That can go towards the bottom, and make it very much about your skills and your achievements.
Thank you. And the profile, I don't know. Sometimes people ask me for a short profile, short bio, and again, there's that temptation to try and fling everything in there. Make it a nice casserole, do you know what I mean? But again, any tips on the profile?
Yeah, be succinct. Yes, be succinct. So you don't want a long history about what you've done for the past 15 or 20 years. Make your profile bit on your CV very succinct, and to demonstrate your achievements, your credibility, your expertise.
Thank you so much. Now, use this time really and truly to reflect on how you look and how you portray yourself, how your profile is, your CV. Online, if somebody looked at you, what would they see? I can remember an assessor coming into my office, an auditor, and she said, "Have you ever Googled yourself?" And I said, "No, I haven't." That day I did, and my jaw dropped, actually. I could not believe what was out there. And there is no control once it is out there. So it's very important that you try to take some level of ownership. Sometimes when people ask you to come and speak in places, ask what happens to the material afterwards. Ask if you're going to get a copy. Ask about terms of engagement. Again, if people are taking pictures of you or want your profile, see if you can have some prepared headshots that you distribute, not the people who catch you off guard and then that image, because they've taken it, is in their hands and then gets recycled and reused. So try to have your headshots ready, your profile ready, your CV ready. Again, if people are asking for information, so that it's ready to go, and it's again brushed up by you in light of all the good tips that you've heard today. So now, if people want to get hold of you and think, gosh, how do I hear more of what Miss Carol Stewart has to offer, courses, mentorship, how will they get hold of you?
If you go to my website, aboundingsolutions.com, you can find me on LinkedIn, Carol Stewart, or listen to my podcast, Quietly Visible Podcast. If you just search that in Google, it's on the major podcast platforms.
Brilliant. I've listened to some of the podcasts, and one of the things that I've realised with the new LinkedIn platform is the way you can actually set up there and do your broadcast from there. That's brilliant. But again, I'm not very good at technology. Would you say that for those people who are a bit introverted, that it is actually quite a good way for them to package themselves online through podcasts? Again, even if you're shy, with a lot of the podcasts, it's just audio. So it might be a good tip for them.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that utilising the social media, particularly LinkedIn, is a great way for you to raise your visibility, raise your profile, and showcase your expertise. And the good thing for people who are introverted is that you've got so many different formats that you can do it. You can write articles, you can do live videos, you can record videos, you can do audio as well. So there's different formats for whatever suits your need. But the thing is to get yourself out there.
Get yourself out there. Don't stay behind closed doors in your office or in your home if your home office, even if your home office is in your kitchen at the moment because you're working from home. Find that time. And would you say, again, carving out the time for it is important as well?
Yes, I would say, because there's no point you sort of say putting an article out there today and then you don't do anything for another 6-12 months, because you need to be consistent with it. Whether it's once a week, every fortnight, once a month, as long as you're consistent with it, so that you then start to build up your audience. And another thing as well, think about the people who you want to connect with.
Who is your audience, or
yes,
who are you targeting?
Yes, and so if it's a case of you're wanting to change career, then think about the organisations that you would like to work at. Go onto their company pages on LinkedIn and comment on their posts. Look at who works at the organisation, because on the company page you'll see all the people that work there. Connect with the key people that work at that organisation as well.
Excellent tips, excellent tips. And then, you know, for the woman that flies solo, for myself, one of the things I found is I'm a founder, I'm working, I'm hiring. It wasn't easy for me to go out and get nuggets of information until I see women like you speaking. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, take down. So for women who are often on their own or flying solo, any few tips for them?
So if you're working solo, you've got your own business on your own, you need a support network. You need a network of people who can challenge you, who can hold you accountable, and who can support and encourage you as well. And you need to be learning as well, continuously learning, so that you can stay ahead of the curve, because we've seen in this past year and a half how things have changed considerably, and so you need to stay ahead of the curve so that you don't get left behind.
Well, thank you for staying with us. That's all the time I have for you today. Thank you, Carol. I'm going to have you back. And thank you for watching. This is Truth and Justice TV, and I'll see you next week. So be good, and if you can't be good, be careful. But stay ahead of the curve. Continuous learning. Thank you. Bye-bye.